Blessings, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Kingdom Restoration. I'm your co host, Geneva Hollis, and we're here with our host, Apostle Don Hughes, and we are continuing to look into the kingdom of heaven is like. This is Apostle Don's book, and you can get you a copy either on Amazon or you can make a donation of $20 or more to his ministry. The ways to do that will be across the screen during the course of this program, and he will sign and mail a copy to you for your use to continue along with us as we study these kingdom parables that give kingdom principles that are relevant to us even today. Let's get started, Pops.
Amen. Thank you, Fun. So today and next Friday, I think we'll be able to conclude the 8th chapter in the book, which is the 8th kingdom parable. And this is talking about the king's servants. And the last couple programs, we kind of got into a foundational thing to lay the foundation, understanding the importance of forgiveness. And we closed out last Friday giving a illustration, a natural illustration of a discrepancy I found on my credit report. I investigated it, found out it was not mine. It was just someone else with my same name. I did what I had to do, filled the paperwork out. And the thing is, not only was it, they sent me a new report 30 days later, not only was it forgiven, it had been removed. And as soon as it was removed, my credit score went back up, my ability to get financed at a better interest rate, all of those things played into the fact that it wasn't just forgiven, it was removed. So in the third paragraph here on page 75 in my book, this is what I wrote, kind of where we left off last week, Geneva. And this is what I wrote. This kind of forgiveness, the kind of forgiveness that Jesus is referring to in this parable, is a forgive and forget forgiveness. It is a written off and removed forgiveness, like I gave that natural illustration last week. The word, this is interesting, Geneva. The word forgive actually means to forthgive. Forgive means to forthgive. It means to dismiss absolutely from your thought. Now, folks, and we said this last week to you, and I'm going to tell you again. Okay, no, maybe you and I can do that. And notice that, let me read to you this part. It means to dismiss absolutely. There we are. Are we back on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep it going. Welcome to technology. We're not going to stop. But anyway, the word forthgive means to dismiss absolutely from your thought. You can't do it, but you can through Christ, who strengthens and gives you the ability to do it. When we forthgive someone, this is what I wrote, we are releasing them from the weight of the matter. Get that, folks. We're releasing them from the weight of the matter, not just with words, but our actions, ultimately removing it from our thoughts. Now, here goes a hard one, as though it never happened. This, folks, is God's way of doing things. You know, in 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 8, we call it the love chapter, you know, and he gives all the definitions of love. One of my translations, which is a paraphrase, Geneva, it says this, that the agape of God, the love of God, listen to how it's worded, hardly even notices when a wrong is done. Now, does that put some work on our part? I would say yes. You know, God does his part, but folks, we have a part to play in this too. Now she's going to get ready to read here. I'm going to have her read some verses. We'll read verses, stop, because the next parable in this chapter is quite long, and we're going to spend today and the next Friday closing this out. But listen to this. The people of God's kingdom, you and I, we must understand and operate in this type of forgiveness.
Mhm.
However, this level of forgiveness can only be accomplished in His strength and through His nature. When we ignore this principle, folks, knowingly or unknowingly, we put ourselves and the debtor in bondage. All too often, in ministering to people with unforgiveness, they just want to deal with the symptom,
Yeah.
not the cause. And what I wrote here is God's desire is to get to the root, the internals, the things that are not easily seen of the problem.
Mhm.
Things cut off at the surface grow back, and seemingly at an alarming rate. Things uprooted are removed permanently unless replanted. I'll give you you replant it by your thoughts and your words. You keep putting it back in. You get healed, you get it out, you talk about it, you just put it right back in. Words are seeds, thoughts are seeds. When thoughts become words, they become seeds, and they go right back into the internals, right back in the unseen realm. When I was a kid, the one thing I hated my dad telling me to do, Geneva, was go pull the weeds out of the flower bed and go pull them out of the lawn. I mean, we didn't have the money to hire some company to come spray the lawn and all that. I was the weed puller. And, as long as my dad was home, I'd be out there with that little shovel, that little pick, and I'd be digging around them. I'd be pulling them up, and it was miserable. It was hot, and it was 100 degrees, and I didn't want to do that. I want to be playing with my friends. It was summer. But when he wasn't there, when he wasn't around, I found a way to do it. I just fired up the lawnmower. And I mowed the whole front yard. I mowed right over them dudes. I cut the heads off of those weeds, and the yard looked beautiful. But here's the problem. I cut them off at the surface, not from the root. So all it took was a little bit more heat, a little bit of rain, and what was hidden resurfaced. Here's why. I'm going to say it this way. You'll get it. I didn't do it the way my father told me it would take to get the result we were looking for. I tried to do a shortcut, and it never worked right. What's your thought before we go into this next parable on that?
I had to chuckle because I'm dealing with the holly bush at the corner of my house right now. The things that have been done to the stump of this holly bush to try and kill it. It has been drilled into and salt poured in it. It has been cut into fourths and burned.
Wow.
Okay. I just had to cut it down again. It was over 8 feet tall.
Oh my goodness.
The original stump no longer lives. But because we did not pull up the roots, additional growth came out from the base of the stump. And instead of one holly bush to deal with, I had 8 holly bushes to deal with and cut down and haul off this time.
Oh my goodness.
Because the root was still there and the root was still trying to form growth.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and how does that apply?
So that's when the other day you said you was out in the yard working. That's what you was doing.
Yes. Well,
here's why I know you're my daughter. If I opened up my drapes right now and I took a picture, you remember that little tree out there in the front yard? Mm-hmm. Well, you remember it was cut down, right? It's gone now. There's this much of the stump. And the reason it was cut down is my niece's husband, I married them several years ago. He does landscaping and trees and planting and all that. And he said because of the Oklahoma sun and the intense heat and all of that, the side of the tree where the sun would come over in the afternoon when it was the hottest scorched the bark of the tree, and it worked into the tree and diseased it. Yeah. And he said, well, the first thing, Don, is just go pull the dead bark off and let's see if it'll live. Well, it wasn't working. So he said, okay, I'll bring one of my crew guys over and we're just going to cut it down and just leave a little bit of the stump up. I said, okay. So he did that. Now watch, because of what Geneva just said.
Come on.
The root system's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, last fall, I had 7 or 8 branches start growing up all around it, up about 2 foot, 3 foot tall. And they had some leaves on them. So I called him and I sent some pictures to him 2 days ago. I said, Jeremy, these are just some branches and I don't really know what's going to come out. Do you want to come and cut them all but the strongest one? And he goes, no, here's what we're going to have to do for it to work right. We're going to have to come up, cut the whole thing down from the roots and plant something new and plant something fresh. So I relate to what you're saying, honey, right there. Folks, you can't just cut around things externally.
No.
They're going to remain because the root has already taken depth and the thing is still there. Even though you might not see it on the outside, it's only a matter of time where what's internal is going to become external and grow. So have you found an answer how to get rid of that dadgum tree in your yard?
I'm afraid we're going to have to pull it up. We're going to have to pull it up by the roots. My concern is it may have grown into the foundation of the house. So,
oh no,
yeah.
The foundation of the house. Oh my! Now, whoa! Think about.
Come on.
Oh my girl, that thing just hit me. Did you hear what she said? Now she's concerned that the root system has gone into and under the foundation. Oh no. So the foundation could be weakened, or now I'm not prophesying this over here, I'm speaking prophetically. No. Could be weakened or cracked or damaged because of a root system that does not need to be there.
Yes.
Wow. Folks.
How prophetic is that?
Woo! That right there is a Selah moment. That wasn't in our script. That wasn't in our notes. That's just all Holy Ghost right there. All right, Geneva, I'm going to have you read in Matthew 18. We're going to move to the kingdom parable that we're actually talking about on the program. Yes. We're going to break down this parable that Jesus taught in Matthew 18. It's kind of lengthy, folks. I'm going to have her read. I might have her read several scriptures. I might have her just go ahead and read. Matter of fact, I tell you what, Geneva, just go ahead and read the whole thing. I know it'll take a minute or two, and then we'll spend the rest of this program and next Friday breaking that part down. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I'm reading from Matthew chapter 18, and I will be reading verses 23 through 35. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take an account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him which owed him 10,000 talents. But forasmuch as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife, and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. Pardon me. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt. But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence. And he laid hands on him, and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet, and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Then his Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desiredst me. Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? And his Lord was wroth and delivered him to the tormentors till he should pay all that was due unto him. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses.
Think about that last phrase, Geneva. Again, it qualifies the parable.
Yeah.
He said, if you don't from your heart forgive your brother, he didn't say an acquaintance. He's talking about covenant relationship.
Yes.
And folks, as she's reading that, here's let me give you a quick synopsis, and this is what I wrote in the next paragraph of the book after she read that. This parable begins with the king realizing that one of his servants owed him 10,000 talents in the King James. From my calculations when I wrote the book, now because of inflation and all that, it's probably going to be more than this. From my calculations, along with what I've heard others say over the years, 10,000 talents would equate to approximately our money today, Geneva, about $20 million.
Yeah.
I trust that you see the prophetic implication of this amount. It's insurmountable. It's a no way out number. It was a figure in the natural that was so far out of reach and without hope of repayment. It was very common in ancient times that the debtor would be sold into slavery for the debt they owed. And if the debt was extremely large, Geneva, their wife and children would be sold into slavery too, to at least get some portion of that debt back. Now, in verse 26, the servant asked the king, this is interesting. He asked the king to be patient. Patience also is where we get our word long suffering from. Doesn't the Bible, in revealing the attributes of our Papa God, doesn't it use one of them, that he is long suffering?
Yes.
So this young man in this parable was asking his king to be long suffering regarding his situation. Whew. And folks, here's the sad thing about this parable. None of us have a problem asking the Father to be long suffering with us as we walk and work our things out. And he does it. And then in turn, we don't want to give that same thing to our brothers and sisters who many times what they owed us or caused to happen to us is so much smaller than what we did with our king.
Yes.
Now watch this. So he owes him this. It was out of reach. There's no hope of repayment.
Never.
In verse 26, he asked his king to be patient, long suffering. This is one of the attributes of our Father God. Go ahead and read Numbers 14, 18, the first part of Numbers chapter 14, 18. Let's find out about this attribute of our Papa God. Go ahead and read that.
The Lord is long suffering and of great mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression.
Look what she just said. The Lord is long suffering. Why aren't we? He has great mercy. Why don't we? He forgives iniquity. Why don't we? He forgives transgression. Why don't we? If we're created in his image and that's his characteristic and he's on the inside of us, Geneva, we don't get a free pass not to operate in the same principle.
No.
Read, here's another scripture to prove it. Read Psalms 86, verse 15. Let's read that one.
But thou, O Lord, art a God full of compassion and gracious, long suffering and plenteous in mercy and truth.
Ooh, look what David said. He said, God, you're full of compassion. Gracious, you're gracious. There's that word again. You have long suffering, and you have an incredible supply of mercy and truth.
Yes.
You know what, folks? You want mercy? You have to sow mercy. You want love? You need to sow love. You want forgiveness? You need to sow forgiveness. That's how these kingdom principles work. And then read Galatians 5:20. Let's go to the New Testament. Read Galatians 5. Here's another confirmation.
Yes. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, and faith.
Ooh, the fruit of the Spirit, folks. Listen to what she just said. You know, in the book of Galatians, it talks about the works of the flesh, but then it talks about the fruit of the Spirit. I teach this all the time, but I never know who's watching. So let me say this. Gifts are something we give. Fruit is something that has to be developed. It has to be planted. It has to be watered. It has to get nutrients. It has to get sun. It has to be cared for. It has to be dunged. It has to be weeded. All of those things go into the development of fruit. He said there is spiritual fruit, not fleshly fruit, the fruit of the Spirit. And notice the first one, Geneva, it's love. It's the agape of God. My mama taught it this way for years, and I don't have an issue with it. Even though all of these fruit are listed individually, she always taught it this way. She believed there was really only one fruit of the Spirit. That's the love of God. And she said all the others are byproducts of operating in the love of God.
Yes.
If I operate in the love, there's going to be joy. If I operate in God's love, there's going to be peace. There's going to be long suffering. That's part of that's an attribute. There's going to be gentleness. There's going to be faith. All of those things. So watch this, folks. If those are all fruit, then don't beat yourself up and don't get mad if you don't have full grown fruit in a week from now.
Yeah.
Fruit takes time and process to develop, right? We know that. So now in verse 27 of the parable, she read something, and watch this, folks. We've got a few minutes left today. It states that the Lord was moved with compassion on the servant that owed him $20 million.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Owed him $20 million. So watch this. It literally means that he was moved from his, you know what's interesting, Geneva? It says he was moved from his bowels.
Wow.
That's the Greek word. It means in those days, the bowels were thought to be the seat of love, pity, and tender affections. He was moved from his bowels, from his internal, not bowels like we think of today, but the application from the Greek language, from the seat of his love and his pity and his tender affection for somebody. This was his servant, this king, this was his servant that had this struggle. Now watch this. Sometimes, something else to consider is that one of the other Greek words of compassion is where we get our word spleen from, Geneva. The spleen filters the blood, and removes abnormal cells. Unforgiveness could be called an abnormal cell.
Yes.
Woo! It also makes disease-fighting components of the immune system, including antibodies. Folks, can you see the spiritual application of those two words, bowels and spleen? These are characteristics of the Father, the King, that he wants his sons and his servants to operate by the same principles.
Yes.
Me forgiving keeps abnormal cells out of my body and my life, Geneva. Me forgiving helps me fight off any component. Me forgiving builds up my immune system and protects me from outward attacks of it. Think about that, folks. Let me give you the next paragraph. Listen to this. So if you believe that from a prophetic standpoint, I'm going to read this. I'll let Geneva comment. Giving and receiving forgiveness is essential for your health and the health of others. When the Lord was moved with compassion, he was moved, watch this, Geneva, internally, which manifested externally.
Yes.
What a level of forgiveness released. An insurmountable sum of debt forgiven. Look at the nature of this king in this kingdom parable Jesus was teaching. What say you, sis?
Oh, that's just so powerful. That's the thing we all have to look forward to. That's the thing we're moving towards, is being that demonstration of our King on the earth. And in the final stages of that, as we demonstrate his love, the need for forgiveness will diminish because we will never take offense to begin with.
Come on. And let me ask you this. In our own life, we could probably be honest. Wouldn't you say this is true, hon? The longer we hold on to it, the more difficult it is to release.
Yes, absolutely. It takes root.
And there it is. Yeah. And we keep trying to run the mower across the top.
Yeah.
Instead of deal with it from its internals. Well, folks, oh my gosh, we got 90 seconds left. When her and I get flowing, 28 minutes, I'm just saying, it don't last long. I mean, it sounds like a long time, but it really doesn't. Let me remind you of this, and then I'll let her close out. We have rhsom.com. That's Rev House School of Ministry. We have an associate's degree program. It's a 2-year program. We've added a master's program that's going to be released late this fall. It's a 13-week program, 2 hours, 1 night a week. There'll be 4 tests. There'll be a 5,000-word essay thesis that you have to write. It's going to be amazing. I just put a little nugget out there on my Facebook page, and I've already had a dozen people commit to it, and I'm only going to allow 50 students in the first master's degree program. And it'll be set up in a Zoom format, similar as you see right here. All the students will be on the screen with me. They'll be muted while I teach, and they will have about a 30-minute interaction. They will unmute. They can ask questions, make comments. We'll pray together. We did that, Geneva, on the second year of the associate, and the students loved that concept. We got about 30 seconds, baby girl. Close us out today.
Yes, we want to remind you, please get you a copy of the book. You can send a donation of $20 or more to Dr. Hughes's ministry. Those ways will be across the bottom of the screen by our producer. And get your own copy. He will sign it, mail it to you, and you can follow along with us. Please come back with us next week as we continue on chapter 8 and the parable of the king's servants. We love you all.
See you next week. Bye-bye. God bless.
Thank you for watching Kingdom First TV, your station for kingdom inspiration.